What happened after Joseph was sold into slavery? What happened to Joseph after his brothers sold him into slavery? The Bible tells us he was taken to Egypt. But what happened during that journey? What was it like for a 17-year-old boy to lose his family, his freedom, and his home, all in a single day? Let's continue the story. As the caravan moved south through the desert, Joseph could only watch as the hills of Canaan slowly disappeared behind him. Every step carried him farther from his father, farther from everything he had ever known. The sounds of home were gone, the familiar faces gone. All that remained was the endless desert stretching before him. Joseph didn't know where he was going. He didn't know who would buy him, and he had no idea if he would ever see his family again. After days of travel, the caravan finally reached Egypt. To Joseph, it must have felt like stepping into another world. Massive temples towered over the cities. Boats sailed along the mighty Nile River. Busy marketplaces echoed with voices speaking a language he had never heard. Soldiers marched through the streets. Merchants traded goods from distant lands. Everything was unfamiliar. Everything was overwhelming. Joseph was a stranger, completely alone in a foreign land. As a slave, Joseph no longer controlled his own future. He couldn't choose where he would live. He couldn't choose who would own him. He couldn't even choose what tomorrow would bring. Standing among other slaves, he waited. Then an important Egyptian official stepped forward. His name was Potiphar. Potiphar served Pharaoh as captain of the royal guard. He looked over the young Hebrew and decided to buy him. In that single moment, Joseph's life changed once again. Most people would have been crushed by despair. Joseph had every reason to be angry. His brothers had betrayed him. His father believed he was dead. His freedom had been taken away. But Joseph made a different choice. Instead of giving in to bitterness, he chose faithfulness. Whatever work he was given, he did it with excellence. Whether he was carrying supplies, preparing meals, organizing the household, or caring for his master's possessions. Joseph worked as though every task mattered. And before long, people began to notice. The Bible tells us something extraordinary. The Lord was with Joseph. Even in slavery, God had not abandoned him. Even in a foreign land, God had not forgotten him. Everything Joseph touched seemed to prosper. The household became more successful. The servants trusted him. And Potiphar saw that Joseph was different from everyone else, not because of his strength, not because of his position, but because God was with him. As the months passed, Potiphar placed more and more responsibility into Joseph's hands. Eventually, he entrusted Joseph with the management of his entire household. Imagine that for a moment. The young man who had arrived in Egypt as a slave was now responsible for one of the wealthiest homes in the land. Joseph managed the servants, the fields, the livestock, the finances, everything except the personal affairs of Potiphar himself. It was an incredible rise, not because Joseph was lucky, but because he remained faithful when no one was watching. At last, life seemed to be changing. Joseph had earned respect. He had gained responsibility. Perhaps, for the first time since leaving home, there was hope. But just when everything appeared to be falling into place, a new danger emerged. It wasn't another journey through the desert. It wasn't another act of betrayal. This time, the threat came from inside Potiphar's own house. And it would become the greatest test of Joseph's character. Join us next time on the Berean Archives as we uncover the story of how Joseph lost everything once again, not because he did what was wrong, but because he chose to do what was right. Sometimes the hardest path is the faithful one, and sometimes God's greatest plans begin in the darkest places.